deadline live stream. Apologies for those that have been waiting in the chat for me. Crazy morning of life admin, followed by, as always, technical issues. You think after a whole season I'd be used to getting these things set up, but lo and behold, I am still horrendous with technology. But we are here, and do not panic. If you are on here right now thinking to yourself, oh my god, I've just missed a deadline, do not worry, it is a later deadline today because we have no lunchtime kickoff. So it's a little bit sad that we have no lunchtime kickoff, but it's great because we have the morning just to understand exactly what we want to do with our FPL transfers. Now, first up, if you are tuned into this, please do drop a like if you are looking forward to it. I'm hoping to answer everybody's question, not only briefly, but in a bit of detail as well. So please do fire them off in the comments section. That is what makes these deadline live streams. You guys getting involved, let me know how I can help you in any way possible. I see we've already got some in the chat, so I'm going to get straight into that in a minute. And I'm going to also reveal my team because I made a transfer a few days ago. I was deliberating a potential -4, so we're going to come to exactly how I have landed going into this game week. We're also going to run through some injury updates because there are a few players like Solanke, Pedro Porro, Mo Salah, for example, who are doubts going into the weekend. So we're just going to update you guys with exactly what we know at the time of recording. So hopefully that will cover off everything that we need to know. So again, if you are looking forward to it, please do drop a like. And of course, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. What I have done as well, guys, is put a poll in the chat for captaincy. It'd be really good to know who you are currently leaning towards because I think it's a really open game week. Haaland against Man United looks a great fixture, but Bukayo Saka away against a Sheffield United team who are so poor at home. Watkins against Luton, I think that's a good fixture with a few injuries that they've sustained, but also a few differentials out there. New boy Son, one of the most bought players going into this weekend, he could be a fantastic captaincy option with Richarlison now ruled out and Son most likely playing as the number 9. We know that when he plays as the number 9, his numbers massively increase. You see the goal threat go up and the creativity go down. And when we're looking for captaincy, that's exactly what I want from my captain. So I haven't ruled out a Son captaincy, but we will come on to my team in a minute. So JP put an early question in. Not sure if you're still in the chat, mate, but Richie to Son for a -4 worth it would mean benching one of Gordon, Watkins or Tony. Well, obviously you have a bit of a benching dilemma. I wouldn't even consider benching Watkins. Tony actually thinks a good play this week. And of course, Gordon at home is always a fantastic option. But I think Son is a brilliant move this week, and it means he's going to be a great option for you in the following game weeks, with Richarlison likely to be out for 28 and potentially 29. So I do like it, but to be honest with you, I would not know which one of those to bench. I probably would have to say benching Gordon, but I don't love it, mate. And that is the only issue with that situation that you're in. But a -4, I do think pays dividends over the next few weeks. ER saying, do I triple captain Saka or Watkins? This game week, if I had to go for one, it has to be Bukayo Saka. Watkins not being on penalties is a massive factor when we're considering captaincy. Saka could have a terrible game. They get a penalty, he lands on a 10-pointer. Watkins, on the other hand, is really reliant on open play goal threat. I think Bukayo Saka has other routes to points, and that's why he would be the best triple captaincy option if you wanted to go there. But I would say to you, maybe consider holding it for the following game week when Dominic Solanke has a double. Laylex saying, Watkins, Solanke, Haaland, Foden, Palmer, Luiz, Son, Saka to bench. Well, straight away, the name that jumps out to me is Douglas Luiz. That is the most obvious player to bench out. I'm not saying he's a bad option, but all the others are so much better than him this week. So Douglas Luiz is the one that you should bench. Absolutely. Dermot. By the way, anybody in the UK tuning into this right now, let me know in the chat. Did you wake up to snow? What a ridiculous morning that was. Woke up, nice Saturday morning, thinking it was going to be a normal day, to snow. 2 to 3 inches of snow outside the door. Let me know if you are from the UK and you woke up to snow as well. Ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. Dermot saying, I only have 3 fit defenders, Stupidan being one of them. Would you transfer him to Doughty for safety? Both might score the same this week, or roll the transfer to have other options next week. So realistically, if you are selling a Stupidan to Doughty, yes, Doughty does play, but are we expecting a clean sheet from Luton? Absolutely not against Aston Villa. With the injuries that Luton has sustained, we might even see Doughty play as one of the back 3, which kind of takes back any potential attack and returns. So I don't love it. I probably would just take the punt, roll the transfer, play a Stupidan this week and hope for the best. But of course, if you are really worried, you have no bench options, then, of course, with your fit defenders, Doughty is a good long-term move, and maybe look at it as, yes, he might not pay it off this week, but he doubles in game week 28 and a guaranteed fixture in game week 29. So when I look at it that way, I do think it is a solid move for your team. Milos is saying, should I transfer out Foden or KDB to Son? Oh, it's a really tricky one. Of the two, I would be more inclined to sell KDB to Son. I think Foden is just offering too much value right now in the game. Yes, he might be moved out to the wing, but I just think right now he's playing too well in that number 10, second forward, however you want to call it. Alvarez does not do the same job as Phil Foden. He is so much better than Alvarez in that position. Could we see Phil Foden moved out to the wing? Absolutely, because KDB is such an important part of the team and he does have to play in central areas, and Foden might get moved out. But for me, of the two, even though KDB is fantastic, I think I'd rather keep Foden and then use the money from KDB to get to Son. Captain Haaland or Saka, huge dilemma. We're going to come on to that in a minute, but at the time of recording, I honestly have them neck and neck. I just have it on Erling Haaland. That is the only reason being because if City are going to score 4 or 5 goals against Man United, I know that's a little bit over the top, I think Haaland is directly involved in all of those. Whereas at Arsenal, would you be surprised to tune in? It'd be 4-0 Arsenal and maybe 1 assist for Saka and then a goal for Martinelli, Havertz, Odegaard. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Whereas if I tuned in and City were 4-0 up against Man United, I think Haaland is getting most of those goals, if not assists, in that team. But I do think, look, the fixture is obviously better for Arsenal against Sheffield United, and the underlying numbers for Sheffield United at home are atrocious. I spoke about this in my previous live stream last week, and I watched it back when I was buying He-Chan. I said Sheffield United away from home are better than they are at home. The numbers at home are atrocious. I think it's like 3 goals per game conceded, and the underlying numbers are literally the same. So it's not like they're getting unlucky and conceding 3 goals. They literally concede. XG conceded 3. So I think Arsenal could pump them. They absolutely could pump them. My defence sucks. What can I do? Ake, Doughty, Saliba, Taylor, Lascelles, Dubravka and Sanchez. Well, this week you start Ake, you start Saliba, and worst case scenario you start Taylor. But Doughty is perfectly fine. I don't think you're in a bad situation here where you need to sub anybody. Dermot, bench Maddison or Gordon. I think you have to bench Maddison because Gordon at home is a fantastic FPL option and he's on penalties. So if Isak's back, he might be on penalties. So that might take it away from Gordon. But nonetheless, I would go for Gordon. Aaron saying, I can't afford Son. Is Gross a good option instead, getting rid of Hwang? It is, but you need to remember that they have the Europa League coming up, and also he blanks in game week 29, so it totally depends on what your team plans are over the short term. Double captain, Saka or Watkins. I don't have Haaland. As I mentioned, Saka for me is definitely the route that I would go for. Rio saying, hi Nacho, would I start Region or Doughty? I expect neither to get a clean sheet this week. So for that very reason, I'm probably going to say Region, because playing as a wing-back guaranteed in that system. Doughty may have to play as a back 3 this week due to the injuries that they have sustained. So I think Region has a few more avenues to points this week, but I don't really like either of them. So keep putting the questions in the comments, guys. I'm going to move over to my team a minute, give you a bit of an update on where I'm at, and then we'll come back into the questions. So here is how we are looking for game week 27. Hopefully you can see that on your screens. I am just going to make it a little bit more zoomed in. Is that a word? I'm going to bring it in a little bit because this is all dead space around the edges. So let us do this. Here we are. And let's bring that down because that's pointless. Perfect. So this is the team going into game week 27. My transfer was I sold He-Chan with that hamstring injury. Yes, he might be good in game week 28 against Fulham, but look, Son for me is an unbelievable option this week. When we take a look at the fixtures coming up, first and foremost, Crystal Palace at home. A lot of talk right now about Spurs struggling against back 3s, but this is a Crystal Palace team who are going to be playing without their best defender in Mark Guy and a newly formed back 3. So even though Spurs historically struggle against back 3s, I'm not really reading too much into that because this is a very new team at Crystal Palace under a new management. Aston Villa away, I think, is an okay fixture, especially for somebody like Son playing down the middle. And then they have Fulham away, the guaranteed fixture in game week 29, followed by Luton at home in 30. I think this is the number one transfer for your teams. With the Richarlison injury ruling him out for 2 to 4 weeks, Son is guaranteed to play down the middle, and we'd expect his minutes to be very, very good. So for that reason, He-Chan to Son in my team made complete sense. Now, looking at the rest of it right now, yes, we do have injury concerns. I put Pedro Porro third bench. I would be astonished if he gets rolled out by Ange. Ange is usually pretty legit with his press conferences and has come out and said that Pedro Porro is not available for the weekend. So I'm benching him. But the reason why I'm not selling him is because if the assumption is that he could be back for game week 28, he is my man for game week 29. And those that tuned into my previous videos would know I haven't landed on a chip strategy yet. For my team, He-Chan being injured just gave me the perfect avenue to Son. And regardless of whether I free hit in 29 or not, Son over the short term is an amazing option. And what he does, it just enables me to not free hit in 29 if I choose not to. So, Pedro Porro benched. The rest of the team picks itself in my eyes. Dubravka over Areola would have been a closer call, but with the injury to Hwang, we only really have Neto and Sarabia as the Wolves attackers, and I'm hoping Newcastle can somehow keep a clean sheet. To be honest with you, if I had a better option, I probably would start them over Dubravka, but my other alternative is Areola, a West Ham team who are nearly as bad defensively. Looking at the back three, Gabriel Saliba perfectly fine this weekend. I'm just praying we don't get another consolation goal conceded, and Ake is coming in for Pedro Porro. I'm hoping he starts. For me, I think he would start because he is one of the best 1v1 defenders in this Man City team. And if Man United are going to hurt Man City, it is going to be in transitional moments. And I think Ake is going to be required in that game. I'm hoping I am right on that one. If he is benched, then I do have a little bit of problems. And Charlie Taylor will come in, is what it is in that situation. Not enough for me to sell. Midfield picks itself. I don't really need to touch on that one. And the front three, Watkins, Haaland, Solanke. Now, if those that follow FPL Harry, a very, very good content creator, you probably know him, obviously. He did put out a tweet yesterday saying that he received some insider information from a trusted source, but he doesn't want to necessarily say it is guaranteed. That Solanke trained yesterday, and as long as he gets through training today, he will start in game week 27. For me, that is enough for a reason to simply have Dominic Solanke starting in the team. And of course, with the double in game week 28, he was never going to be sold in my team unless we had confirmation that he was ruled out for maybe a month. So Solanke's in. Worst case scenario if he gets 0 minutes. I have Garnacho coming in, and we just pray that Man United, if they are going to score, he gets a hat trick. So my team's pretty obvious this week. I'm pretty confident with the players that I've selected, and it gives me a good luxury option of going into game week 28 with a flexible chip strategy dependent on what injuries do happen. So that is the team. He-Chan to Son, and I'm locked in. Captaincy is the big one. I can see the poll has obviously been voted in. If you haven't done it already, please do. We've had 115 votes. If we could get that to 150, that'd be really good. Haaland at 74%. I think that is the direction a lot of managers are going to go for because United defensively are just so poor. I think somebody said that they've conceded 100 shots in 5 games, and they're now coming up against one of the most dominant teams in the league in Man City. And I don't think Man United have the tools available to really shut up shop against them. So I do think the shot volume is going to be there, and then it just comes down to getting lucky with Haaland converting the inevitable chances that he will get. Bukayo Saka at 21%, which is actually a lot less than I thought it would be. But he is a great option this week against the Sheffield United team who was so poor defensively at home. And then Son at 3%, followed by 3% at others. So that is the captaincy covered off. I think Haaland is the best pick, but I cannot argue with anybody going for Bukayo Saka. Right. I'm conscious I have a lot of questions in the chat that I haven't addressed right now. So we are going to reel those off. If you haven't already, please do drop a like if you haven't already on the stream, and let's get back to it. So Bowen or Bailey, and then is Senesi a good pick? If I was starting one of the two, I would start Leon Bailey, and Senesi, yes, is a good pick. But remember, if you are not free hitting in game week 29, Bournemouth double, but then blank in that week. So just be cautious of how you're going to navigate that period. Eslam saying, should I sell KDB for Bowen for a -4? No, I would not do that for a -4. Newton, going for Saka captain and avoiding TV and internet until Tuesday. Look, I think Saka is a fantastic option. There is very, very little between them. And the big thing we need to remember about Bukayo Saka is being a midfielder, he gets an additional point for a goal and for a clean sheet. I think we're all assuming Arsenal are going to get a clean sheet in this game. And if he is to get in amongst the goals, straight away, it puts pressure on Erling Haaland to really deliver what we would argue is a brace in that game. Any news on Darwin? I will check for you during this stream on Twitter. Obviously, I don't get any news, so I'm kind of reliant on others. But I think we will get some information between now and the deadline. We've already seen on here that there's nothing right now on Liverpool. But I think we will get some between now and the deadline. Jonah, I hope you are well, mate. I'm doing very well myself. Keep KDB or selling for Son. Josh, I think the upside is there to go for Son, especially if you're planning on not free hitting in game week 29. Son really helps you get through those weeks. But look, you know as well as I do, KDB is one of those players. If I said to you right now, he has got 4 assists against Man United, you wouldn't be surprised at all. But I think over the next 3 game weeks, I prefer Son over Kevin De Bruyne. Yas is saying, should I start Walker or Stupinan? I'm going to say Kyle Walker. I think Man United do have the tools available to hurt Man City, but I just think with Stupinan's minutes being very, very hard to predict, I'm going to say Walker is the pick of the bunch there. Panda, I'm top 400 in the world. Should I captain Odegaard for a differential? Panda, if you are top 400 in the world right now, you should not be tuning into this live stream. You should be hosting the live stream. Mate, I feel very, very bad giving advice here because you're doing so well. I think what has got you to this point is going probably with your own gut instinct. If it was me, I don't really feel Odegaard is necessarily needed for a differential captain unless you are really hunting for that number 1 spot. If you have Haaland, I prefer him over him. I prefer Saka over Odegaard. But look, mate, if you've got that gut feeling, go for it. And please do let me know. DM me how you get on this week. So I'll be very interested to see if you do stay as a top 500 player. Remember, if you do finish in the top 1k, that is an unbelievable season. Ahmed, should I sell Richarlison or keep it and hope he will play game week 29? Ahmed, it completely depends on your team. If you're in a position where your 11 is looking really weak, a Richarlison to Son move just makes complete sense. Ange's press conference stated that he could be out between anywhere to 2 to 4 weeks. And if that is the case, looking at the fixtures for Spurs, so obviously today is the 2nd of March. So if we take that as kind of gospel, it means he'll miss Aston Villa. 2 weeks, he'll miss Fulham. That's game week 29 out the window straight away. And then, of course, he might be back for the Luton game at home, which is great. But you need him over this period. So I think Richarlison is probably a sell, unless your team's looking great and you want to be a bit more flexible in the following game week with a bit more information. Otherwise, I think Richarlison, unfortunately, does have to go. Adebayo for Morris from -4 or just start Garnacho. Eslem, unfortunately, I don't actually know the situation on Adebayo and his injury status. I don't love it for a -4 for Morris if Adebayo is close to a return. So I think you might need to do a little bit of digging on that, mate. I do apologise. I don't have the latest on him. Take a hit for a Stupinan to a Bournemouth defender. If you are free hitting in game week 29, then yes, I do like it. Yes, should cover that one, mate. Jordan is saying, hi, mate. Already did my 1 free transfer Darwin to Solanke. Should I do Huang to Son for a -4 or roll and assess next week? I think if you are in a position where you know you want to have Son either this week or next, just get it done this week. I think that is the way to go because Huang could be back for game week 28 with a really good fixture at home against Fulham. But equally, we might get news and he's ruled out for another 2 weeks. And then you're buying Son a week late. And if you want to target the fixtures, this is the week to do so with Crystal Palace at home. So I think to really get the most out of Son, you've got to buy him this week or next week's fine. But I think this week is the time to really target Son. Elas is saying, oh no, sorry. Jissar saying Nunes to Muniz. Bloody hell, trying to stitch me up there with a tongue twister. No, I think I would just keep Nunes. Watkins captaincy, I can't argue it. He is in fantastic form this season. So Elias is saying best defender to buy. Really difficult to answer because I don't really know your strategy. If you're free hitting in game week 29, I think somebody like a Senesi is great at Bournemouth, but do be cautious. He is on 8 yellow cards, 2 away from a 2-game suspension. So just be cautious of that. Otherwise, I can never pronounce him, but it is the other Bournemouth defender. And it's just because I'm so bad with my pronunciations. It begins with Z. however that is pronounced. That is the other option I would go for. No glitz, no glamour. My only issue with Bournemouth is that how many clean sheets do they really keep? So let's look at it here. Clean sheet against Fulham. Clean sheet against Man United. Clean sheet against Palace. Yep. Clean sheet against Newcastle. Chelsea, but everybody keeps a clean sheet against Chelsea. So, like, the double up on Bournemouth does make complete sense. And these fixtures are fantastic. But I don't think that's a guaranteed clean sheet at all. I think Luton have shown that they have the tools available to hurt any team. And I don't even think this is a guaranteed clean sheet against Burnley. If it was at Bournemouth, I would. So, Bournemouth are a great investment, especially for free hitting in game week 29. But I think we do need to remember that Bournemouth are not a team that are necessarily sensational defensively. I'm just going to bring up the numbers for Bournemouth. So this is based on defending across the course of the season. So expected goals conceded for teams. You can see here, Luton are just the worst at 56.66 expected goals conceded in 25 games. So they literally average, like if we go per 90 minutes, every game is basically 2.27 goals expected against them, which is awful. Bournemouth, on the other hand, is 1.67. So it's actually not as bad as I was expecting. I thought that'd be around the 2 bracket. When we compare that to the likes of Chelsea, they're only just worse than Chelsea. They're better than United, better than Spurs. Obviously, Arsenal are just absolutely a joke at 0.86. So Bournemouth aren't horrific defensively, to be honest with you. So they are a good investment, especially with the double game week. But, they're not, they're not Arsenal level defence. No snow in the middle of Scotland. Josh, no snow in Scotland. That is unusual. No snow here in Suffolk either. Right, let's get past some of these questions that I've already covered. Vincent, should I take a hit to change a stupid to Gabriel? I have to start Charlie Taylor, otherwise we'll free hit in game week 29. If you have no Arsenal coverage, then yes, I do like the move, especially if you are free hitting in game week 29. No, I have Pedro Neto. Do you have Pedro Neto? Is his name Pedro Neto? Wait, what? Hang on. Is his name Pedro Neto? It is. Why did I think it was someone else? Okay, cool. Pedro Neto. So I thought it was 2 players there. Pedro Neto, Saka, Foden, Palmer, and Garnacho. Who should I replace with Son? End of the day, mate, if you have the funds available to upgrade Garnacho to Son, then I would do so. But obviously, it depends on the balance of your squad. Otherwise, I think Neto is a make way for Son. Start Martinez or Areola. I think I'll start Martinez of the 2. Start Doughty or Reguilon. I would lean more towards Reguilon of the 2. Yeah, I would lean towards Reguilon. The only reason being is I think both are going to concede. But what I've heard from Luton in terms of it is we might see Doughty play in the back 3 because of the injuries to the team of the centre-backs. And that really reduces Doughty's attacking output. So I think I would go for Reguilon knowing that he will start as a winger or a wing-back, basically. Should I bring a Tottenham defender? If so, who? Right now, I'm not hugely invested in Spurs because their underlying numbers are pretty poor from defensive numbers. Look, Spurs right now, expected goals conceded, 1.71 per 90 is really poor. If you have to invest in one, I probably would say going for your doggy is the route. Pedro Porro, I used to like him, but his numbers have really dropped off of late. And of course, he is out for game week 27. So if you need to buy one, your doggy would be the pick. Should I start Solanke if yes, instead of Palmer or Bowen? Look, what it sounds like right now is that he had a training session yesterday, he got through it, and if he passes the training session today, he will play on Sunday. I would start Solanke. Would I start him over Palmer or Bowen? I probably would start him over Bowen. But honestly, mate, you need to understand all 3 of those are really, really have the potential to hurt you. So regardless, all of them are capable of hurting your rank. The reason why I would go for Palmer over Bowen is 2 things. 1, Brentford have all of their normal back 4 out. So Chelsea are up against a very poor Brentford side. And 2, Palmer's on penalties. Jarrod Bowen isn't. That is another big factor. Wildcard a good option or not if only for playing in game week 29? George, you definitely can wildcard if you're able to navigate game week 29 with the players that you selected. So yes, I do mind that. I don't mind that at all. Obviously, you have a free hit available. Free hit could get you through that week. James is saying, worth taking a -8 to bring in Son. Planning to wildcard in game week 30. Son looks like a good mid-turn transfer. James, it depends who you're selling. I don't love it for a -8. It really does put a lot of pressure on Son to deliver. So I don't love it. But if you're selling a player that is injured, then yes, it can bring value to your team. Who would you start, Sanchez or Dubravka? Well, Sanchez is not even guaranteed to play for Chelsea, so I think you're going to naturally default to Dubravka. Who do I bench, Senesi or Braithwaite? Well, as a reminder, Everton have West Ham, and of course, Bournemouth have Burnley. I think both are probably going to concede, is my thought process right now. I think there's a coin flip between the two. Just because they're at home, I probably would say Braithwaite, but I think Burnley are a poorer attack. Very difficult, mate. I probably would just go for Braithwaite and hope that Everton put up a really horrible, dirty home performance where they keep West Ham out. Just checking, guys, to see if my game has been called off today. Game has been called off. Okay. Right. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions on here, guys. Is there a chance that Werner plays on the left and Son plays on... No. As I will be astonished if Timo Werner plays on... Sorry, down the middle. I think Son is just infinitely one of the best number 9s in the league, let alone at Spurs. Werner is just a donkey. And the way that Ange plays, he likes his wingers to hold the touchline. And Werner does offer that ability with his pace. So... no, I see no world where Werner plays as a number 9 and Son on the left. Phil, start Palmer or Gordon. Honestly, mate, this is a coin flip. I think I'll just lean towards Cole Palmer. The only reason being is on penalties, and Brentford have got 4 of their starting defenders out. So I would just lean towards Palmer. But what we do need to note is that Gordon's numbers at home are fantastic. Let me see if I can get this up right now. So based on midfielders playing at home... okay, per 90 minutes, we're going to go for just general FPL points, and we're going to get rid of all of the ones that are like, you know, players who play like 2 minutes, because that really isn't going to help the numbers here. Is Gordon on here? Yeah, here we go. So, again, Gordon's played 1,000 minutes, and I'm comparing that to the likes of Mudryk. So let's bump this up, because Mudryk is not a good comparison, because he plays whenever he wants. So, Gordon, based on players that have played more than 600 minutes at home, is averaging 7.52 points at home. So he is one of those players that is a flat track bully when he plays at home. Same applies to Douglas Luiz, 7.72 when they play at home. So even though I'm saying to you, Palmer, do understand that you're selling a top 5 midfielder that plays at home. And I do think there is some logic behind it. He does really step up in these home games. So yeah. Just be cautious of that, mate. And it's a good bit of information to note as well. Start Edison or Dubravka. Mate, I'm always going to back the Man City defence, so I'm going to say Edison. Newcastle, one of the worst defences in the league right now. If we come over to the underlying numbers, first and foremost, over the course of the season, based on per 90 minutes, home and away, Newcastle are expected goals conceded per 90, 1.74. But if we narrow it and we look at maybe game week 14, so this is still a decent sample size. Since they've had all their injuries, they are the worst defence in the league by miles. 2.43 expected goals conceded per 90. Luton are massively better than them. So we need to understand that the Newcastle defence that we saw at the start of the season is not the defence that we're seeing now. And it is a little bit target Newcastle. The only reason why I'm playing Dubravka this week is because of the injuries to Wolves. With Hee-chan and, of course... Sorry, I've got the hiccups. Hee-chan and... oh my God, who's the other player out, guys? I've got absolutely gone. Cunha. Hee-chan and Cunha both out, sorry. Wolves' attack are a little bit decimated. The problem is, Pedro Neto against Dan Burn. Any player who is direct and runs at players does well. And I think Pedro Neto is going to destroy Dan Burn, but I'm hoping there is nobody in the middle to finish off the chances. That's the hope anyway. try not to miss any questions, so I do apologise. And again, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, please do consider dropping a like. That would be amazing to have you guys on board. And also, if you can, subscribe to the channel. Again, I don't ever really say it enough, but I should really say, if you can, be amazing to have you as a subscriber this season. Right. Foden to Son or Nunes to Solanke? To be honest with you, I do not like the idea of selling Foden right now. I think he's in great form. Son I prefer over Solanke for this week in isolation, but you're going to want Solanke for the double in 28. So if I had to sell one, I think I'd advise Nunes to Solanke. That is probably the route that I would recommend. I'm just double checking to see if there is no updates right now. I don't think there is. Let me just move that over there a minute. Right, let's get back to these questions. Sorry, guys. Okay. Thoughts on Maddison? Basically, if anyone doesn't watch Planet FPL, he is a season ticket holder at Spurs, and he said the last game that Maddison played was one of the worst he's seen in a Spurs shirt. However, they have had a 2-week break, and what happened to Arsenal when they had a 2-week break? They came back like gods. So I do think we're going to see an improved Spurs team as a collective, but of course the injury to Richarlison may kind of impact that. For me, I want to see a little bit more from Maddison before investing. He is not a kind of alternative to Son. He won't deliver the same as Son at all. Tempt on a wildcard. Who do I get as my fifth midfielder slot? Barkley or Elanga? Well, looking at the fixtures coming up for both players, let me get that for you. This is running between game weeks 27 and 29. Nottingham Forest, of course, do play in game week 29, which is great. Liverpool, Brighton, Luton, Palace, Fulham, Spurs. The other player that you're considering right now is going to be Ross Barkley. The reason why I do like Ross Barkley is because he doubles in game week 28 and has guaranteed fixtures. So I am going to say Ross Barkley in this situation. However, I do understand that Elanga is probably deemed to be a bit more of a attacking outlet. But when we do take a look at the player heat maps for both players, I will just need to search them up because I don't think they will come up in the top list of midfielders. Does Barkley come up? Can anyone see him on here? Barkley, Ross Barkley. And we are also looking at, who is the other one? Elanga, who is not on here. Sorry guys, give me 2 seconds. This will be beneficial for anyone that is possibly considering this comparison. Okay, so we have got Elanga is here. Perfect. Touch heat maps between Ross Barkley and Elanga. You can see obviously Elanga is much more of a natural attacker winger in this system, but we want to come down to the underlying numbers here. So based on XG per 90, Elanga is leading 0.27 per 90, but the shots just in Ross Barkley's favour, but in the box, that's a huge one that I always like to look at. Obviously, shots in the box kind of correlate to XG. If you take shots in the box rather than 40-yarders, naturally your XG is going to be better. So 1.77 for Elanga, only 0.85 for Ross Barkley. The assists attempted by Ross Barkley are better, but obviously, generally speaking, Elanga is a better attacking option in FPL. However, the one thing I will state is that, of course, you do get the double game week for Ross Barkley and guaranteed minutes. When we take a look at Elanga's minutes, that's something that I actually don't know the answer to right now. So Elanga is 5.1 million. Barkley is 5. Okay, so no difference in the prices there. Minutes-wise for Elanga, they're actually decent. That obviously was an injured period and he's come back and he's done well. Goals scored this season, 5, 7 assists. To be honest with you, I really do like Elanga as a differential now. I'm looking at the numbers. I think Ross Barkley because of the fixtures. Otherwise, if you want a better asset, Elanga is probably the one. Should I transfer Burnout for a -4? I don't think he gets started anymore. Lelex, I think it is a transfer that needs to be done. However, I just don't think for a -4 there are any defenders out there that justify you doing it. I would much rather you do one or two things. If you're free hitting a game with 29, bring in a Bournemouth defender because obviously they double in 28. So that -4 should pay itself off over this week. Otherwise, I'd probably just let it run this week and start Dan Burn and hope for the best. I would be a little bit worried though. Dan Burn versus Pedro Neto. Eddie Howe may look at that and think, you know what, actually, I'm not having that situation arise, and he plays Livramento. Will Darwin play? Don't know on that one. I will check Twitter right now to see if there's any kind of trusted accounts that have shared any Liverpool information, but I don't know for sure whether there has been any sort of Liverpool team leaks. I will look now, and what have we got? Can't see any news, so I do apologise. I'm seeing if there's any news about Liverpool that isn't, so we're just going to run with it for now that we're not going to get anything. But remember, we still have an hour and a half to the deadline, so loads of time to get some information. Any suggestions on Pedro Porro? To be honest with you, what I'm doing with him is just keeping him. I think there is an assumption that he could be available for game week 28, and then game week 29, he's a good option if you're not planning on free hitting. So I'd probably just keep Pedro Porro because I do think he is a valuable option later down the line. As I'm saying about Adebayo to Morris from -4 or just start Garnacho, I probably would just start Garnacho personally. Start Solanke, KDB or Douglas Luiz. Well, I would start Solanke because I think he either starts or he gets 0 minutes. So I prefer Solanke. But look, out of the choices that you picked, I would rank them as Solanke 1, KDB 2, Douglas Luiz 3. Andrew, I've had Bowen for weeks and he only got points last week. Shall I swap Bowen to Saka or stick with Bowen? Well, Andrew, it depends on what your strategy is. If you are looking to free hit in game week 29, Bowen to Saka covers you off this week, and Bowen's obviously an amazing, Saka's an amazing option. But if you're planning to run through game week 29 with just transfers, buying Saka isn't great. Covers you off for this week, but then beyond that, not amazing. When we look at the fixtures coming up for them, obviously Brentford at home and Sheffield United, look, the fixtures are incredible. And I think going without Bukayo Saka is a very dangerous move. So I think it's a great move for your teams, but do note that Bowen does offer value because he plays in game week 29, and that may well kind of counteract the points that Saka scores over this period. He-Chan and Darwin's and Watkins and Odegaard for a -4. Yes, I do like that. I think I prefer Son, though, if you can get there, rather than Odegaard. Covered those off. What's the chance Solanke starts with Nathan? So, obviously, we had the press conferences, and it sounds like he is a little bit of a risk. However, what we do need to note is FPL Harry, a very trusted person in the community, you probably know him, obviously. He did get some sort of news stating that Solanke trained yesterday. If he passes training today, he will be available for the weekend. So I think there is a solid chance Solanke starts, yes. Ollie, I see your questions have been deleted, so I'm just going to quickly answer it now, save more technique having to delete them. So you've asked, bro, I need more points than others in my thing. Saka captain, thoughts? Obviously, Saka captain is a fantastic option this game week. There's no denying it whatsoever. Up against a very poor Sheffield United defence. Obviously, you're playing up against people in your league who may be going for Erling Haaland, but I can't deny Saka's a brilliant option. Looking at him right now in his underlying numbers over the last few weeks, expected goal involvement, 0.86, 1.1, 2.19, 1.21. Look, very few players have come close to Bukayo Saka over the last 4 game weeks, and he's now come up against one of the worst defences in the league. I have no qualms with you going for Saka. I think he's a great option. Alexander's saying, I currently have Dubravka, Gabriel in my first 11 with 2 free transfers available. I don't know what to right now stick with it. Realistically, if you have 2 free transfers, you don't really want to be burning them in that situation, but your team looks very, very strong. The only move that I would look at maybe is KDB to Son, but I don't think you need to force it in your team. Otherwise, can you improve your bench? That's the other question. Sell Trippier for Kivior. Trippier, I probably would hold this week. It's a good home fixture. I know Newcastle are poor, but it is a good home fixture against Wolves, even though Wolves are doing well this year. Kivior, I wouldn't touch. I do think there could be some rotation with Zinchenko at some point, and I do think Zabaria is the best Bournemouth defender. If you're going down the route of free hitting in game week 29, then I think Trippier to Zabaria makes a lot of sense, and it gives you the double in 28. Transfer Foden out for Son. Milos, I don't love it. I do think Son will outscore Foden over the next 3 game weeks inevitably because he plays in game week 29. But I don't think there is a guarantee that it will pay off this game week because I think Foden is in a great run of form right now. But Son playing as a number 9, we would argue is probably the best value player in the game when he does play as a number 9. His underlying numbers are incredible when he is deployed down the middle in that team. Just trying to cover off other questions, guys. Again, I do apologise if it's like silent at times on the stream. It's just because I'm reading the chat, but I really do appreciate you guys tuning into this stream because obviously there are so many amazing content creators out there and we still have an hour and a half to the deadline, but I won't be running this up until the deadline. I'm going to be doing this until about 12:25ish, and then we're going to wrap it up just because I've got a few things I need to do, and I also need to go live on TikTok an hour before the deadline. But I really do appreciate you guys being on the stream. It is massively appreciated as always. Be good to know where you're tuning in from in the world as well. And for those that are wondering, maybe you've jumped into the stream recently, I do forget that sometimes. My team on the screen here, and what I have done is I've sold Hee-chan for Son. So I think what might be beneficial actually, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat, but what I might do, because some people might be sat there thinking, what is your plan for upcoming game weeks? Let me just give you a little bit of an idea on what I plan to do with my team over the coming weeks. Now, just to give you a bit of an idea, I am not tied down to any strategy whatsoever. I might free hit in game week 29, I might wildcard next week. I am literally just allowing game week 27 to happen and then make a judgment afterwards, because for my team, with the injury to Hee-chan, I needed to make a move, and Son is the perfect player to buy if you want to be flexible with your chip strategy. The reason being is he covers you in game week 29 if you plan to go through it without a free hit, but also if you plan on free hitting in game week 29, he has brilliant fixture this week and arguably a good fixture against Villa the following week, and his value is going to fly up over that period. So you've kind of got him ahead of the free hit draft that you're going to build, where you're inevitably going to have him in that team. So let me show you how the team looks over the next few weeks, just to give you a bit of an idea. This will help over the long term whenever this looks. And by the way, anybody that doesn't have this, you're missing out. It is Fantasy Football Fixes Google Chrome extension, totally free, called FPL Plus, which syncs with the official site. It gives you price changes tab and a planner tab. You don't have to go off to any other apps. This is all within the main site that introduces it. So let's just reset my draft a minute. So this is how my team is looking right now, as we've spoken about, not making any further transfers. So going into game week 28, as I mentioned, I'm being very flexible with my strategy right now. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but let's make the assumption that Dominic Solanke does play and he's available. He is going to be the captain this week, no questions asked whatsoever. And with the assumption maybe that Pedro Porro is also available, again, there is no guarantees about that. My team on paper looks pretty strong going into the weekend, but of course with Man City playing against Liverpool, you could argue that the City players are not amazing, but I would argue that Liverpool defensively have still been pretty poor, and I do think they could do really well in this week. Now, in terms of my upcoming transfers and what I can do, at the time of recording, I am planning on going without a free hit, but as I said, I am being totally flexible. So if I was to go without a free hit, I would have to take a -4 in game week 28, I would believe. So what that would entail is trying to bring in Jarrod Bowen. The reason being is Jarrod Bowen has arguably the best fixture in game week 28 out of the doubles, where he is at home against Burnley. And of course, he has a guaranteed fixture in game week 29. So he is a brilliant investment for anybody, regardless of whether you're free hitting or not. So I would look in this week, and again, it goes against what I did state, but if I could sell Garnacho over Bowen, that would be the route I would go for. And I would bring in Jarrod Bowen. Controversially, he would have to start ahead of some players who I would not like to bench. So I will come onto that bridge when we get there, because as I said, so much can happen between now and that deadline. And then what I would look to do is bring in a Luton defender. Do I think they're going to keep a clean sheet over the double? No. But they bring me a player for game week 29 and of course the double. So I would look to sell Nathan Ake. And right now at the time of recording, it would be Doughty coming in at 4.6 million. and he would start over Pedro Porro. Wouldn't have a problem with that. So the only thing I need to ask myself is, if I was to sell Garnacho for Jarrod Bowen, is Bowen better than the other players that are on your screens right now? And I do think there is an argument that Jarrod Bowen starting over Phil Foden does make a lot of sense. So Jarrod Bowen, Phil Foden, that's probably the route that I would go for right now. But again, lots can happen between now and then. We might see an injury arise to Cole Palmer. Happy days, I simply start Jarrod Bowen over him. So I need to assess whether that -4 is worth it. Once that team's locked in, coming into game week 29, this is how the team would look. Again, the assumption is Pedro Porro would be available. Yes, I do have Charlie Taylor. That is not a good situation. But now what we can do with the team is really try and hone in on game week 29. Originally, I thought Richarlison was going to be the move, but I don't think it is now. So what I am looking at now is getting rid of somebody like a Phil Foden for... who's that was going to bring in? Maddison. Could even be a Leon Bailey if he continues his fantastic form. And also selling Erling Haaland for Ivan Toney. And the team would look like this. 9 players, but I believe I've got the best players available in the game. Toney and Watkins, anybody who free hits are going to have that team. Maddison, Son, I think will be in a lot of teams. I've got the coverage in Jarrod Bowen. The only real players that I'm missing that I would be a little bit scared of is a Luton forward, but let's be honest, I'm not scared about a Luton forward personally, and I would argue an Aston Villa midfielder. Outside of that, I think this team is really well covered in every other department. So that team gets there with a -8, a -4 and -4 and 28, and a -4 and 29. And then once we save that team, go into game week 30, there is an argument that we could even not wildcard this week. Obviously, Arsenal play against City, which is not ideal at all. However, what I would like to do in this week is potentially try and bring in a certain Mo Salah. Now, you look at this team and think, who are you going to sell for Mo Salah? Well, realistically, I do think selling Jarrod Bowen in this week would make a lot of sense, and bringing in Mo Salah for a home game against Brighton. And my team would look like that, and I would even consider maybe starting Saka over Ivan Toney if I were to think that they were going to do well, and I would have to start an Arsenal defender like Gabriel instead of Taylor. So right now, that is the plan. I'm being really flexible in my chip strategies. Lots can happen between now and then, but I do think I can get through that week with a -8, own all of the essential players in the team, and run through it like that. So that's what we're looking like going into game week 29. Let me know your thoughts, and let's get back to the questions. We're going to be going for another 10-20 minutes, so make sure if you haven't already, you do fire off any questions you have not got. I'm just checking to see if there's any more news regarding Liverpool players, and I don't think there is. I do apologise, I need to have a swig of the old coffee. Okay, so let's get back into the chat. Hey there, would you triple up on City or go for Son in, KDB out? If you triple up on City, then obviously that does tie you down to a free hit in 29, or you're going to mass sell him in game week 28. KDB to Son, I do think over the next 3 weeks will pay off. But look, you need to remember, KDB is a fantastic option, and he has the potential to hurt anybody. Not in real life, obviously, in footballing terms. Darius is saying, why no Watkins captain? I just think there are so many amazing options this week, and I prefer Erling Haaland over Watkins. I think somebody stated that Man United have conceded like 100 shots. Let's get this up a minute. Again, I hope this does offer value going into Fantasy Football Fix. For those that don't know, this is Fantasy Football Fix, the best, by far, site for your data and everything. Very underrated. It's just the best site around by far. Okay, so this can't be real. Last 5 weeks, so what we're looking at, we've had game week 26, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Defending. Shots conceded. Holy moly. The last 5 games, Man United have conceded 100 shots against them. 67 of those being in the box. For comparison, Over the same period, Arsenal have conceded 36 shots against them, 22 in the box. I mean, that's terrible. If we come on to the other side and we look at shots, oh, lo and behold, over the same period, actually one game more, sorry. So let's just do 23. So remember, in the last 5 games, Man United have conceded 100 shots on their goal. In the last 5 games, Man City are by far and away the most shots with 115. Second best is Liverpool, but they have played a game less. So, look, City have averaged 23 shots per game. And they're up against a team of Man United who have conceded 20 shots on their goal in the last... Yeah, Haaland's captain for me. Haaland's captain, no questions asked. No questions asked. Just make sure I don't skip over any of these questions. Bench 1, this is from Adit. Bench 1, Palmer, Toney or Solanke. Look, I think all are great options this week. I would controversially bench... Controversially, I would bench Toney, but all 3 could do damage against you. Salt and Pepper 1. Will we find out before the deadline if Stupinan starts? Potentially. My advice is be active on Twitter. That is the place that we're going to get it if there is any. If I haven't got a free hit, should I use free transfers getting players playing Game Week 29 and Wildcard Game Week 30? Yes, Johnny. If you don't have a free hit, then that is definitely an option that you could go for. You could dead end in Game Week 29 and then look to obviously wildcard out with the players that you've brought in. Nico, can I be your captain this week? Of course you can, Nico. Eslam saying, start Doughty or Braithwaite. I think both are going to concede. Doughty offers a bit more attacking threat from set pieces if he is still on free kick and corner responsibilities. So I'm probably just going to lean towards Doughty. Dan James, is that the Leeds Dan James? Start 3 of VVD, Gabriel, Gusto and Trippier. Ooh. Okay, so let's look at the fixtures first and foremost for those that don't know. Gabriel picks himself, so that is 1. Gusto will start for Chelsea, but whether he actually is a good option. Liverpool, with their fixture away against Forest, I don't love it. Trippier has attacking threat. Of those, I would start probably Gabriel, Trippier, Van Dijk. That's probably the ones that I would start. Play Walker or Solanke. I probably would start Solanke. Flynn, what is the logic behind Haaland over Saka? Hopefully, Flynn, that bit where I covered off the shots conceded versus shots taken from United kind of give you a bit of an insight on why I'm going down that route. Alexander, right, thanks, mate. I'll look to upgrade the bench. No worries at all. Eslam said, I'm in my free transfer Hwang for Son. I want to get Watkins for Adebayo. But to get the money, I would need to sell KDB for Palmer and do a -8. Nah, I don't love that, mate. Don't love that. De Bruyne to Son, for a free transfer, yes, I do like it over the long term. Over the next 3 game weeks, I like that move. Saka, Udogie or Moreno for wildcard team this week. Udogie has better guaranteed minutes, so I would go for Udogie. Saka or Son, Elias is saying, honestly, impossible to answer because Son would be the answer because he plays in Game Week 29. But if you're free hitting in Game Week 29, the answer is Saka. Conor Crane, have Brady on my bench, but I don't know how much he'll play in the future. I think Brady for the next few game weeks is actually pretty solid. I think Trent is still a little bit away. The man, the myth, the legend. Who plays up front for Bournemouth if Solanke misses this game week? I don't actually know because the replacement that they have went off with a shoulder injury. I do forget his name. So they might even play like Semenyo up top potentially. But my assumption is that Solanke will start. Connor, don't have Solanke, but I do have He-Chan and Richarlison. Do I get Solanke in now or else transfer one for who? Mate, He-Chan for Son, if you can go there, is the route that I would go for. Douglas Luiz or Bailey? Bailey would be my answer there. Start Darwin or Gross? I don't know if Darwin starts, so for that very reason, I probably would go for Pascal Gross. But Darwin obviously has a huge ceiling when he does get involved for Liverpool. If we get the leak that he starts, then it has to be Darwin Núñez in my eyes. Right, guys, I really do apologise, but we're going to have to wrap up the stream here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any more questions, please do fire them off in my most recent video, and I will be sure to answer them. Me too. I know you're a regular visitor, mate. So I hope you're doing well. Let me quickly answer your question. I have a Stupinan and Dan Burn ahead of her priorities. Is it worth a -4 to swap to Saliba plus Senesi or just one? If so, which one? For a -4, I think over the short term it will pay dividends. So yes, I do like those moves, mate. Right, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have an amazing game week. I will be live on TikTok from 12:30. I will hopefully see you there. Have a great day, great game week. Take care. Cheers.